Record.
Welcome to Know Your Mind, episode 1. Hold on a second. There we go. Just fixing some headphones right quick. There we go. That's super good. So this topic is very broad and very wide, but can be summed up into one word, and this one word could be talked about for hours and hours and hours and hours. In fact, I could make like an 2 hour, 3 hour long video just talking about this one subject, assumption, because assumption is something that the mind does a lot, and it does it in like a way too where not only does it assume things, but it also makes those things certain in its mind, even if it's not certain in reality itself. So one form of this assumption is called personalization, which is a cognitive distortion. I'll be talking about more about cognitive distortions in future episodes, probably going one by one so that you can get a clearer explanation of how this works. So what do I mean by assuming something? So say somebody is it could be very simple, like somebody could be like sighing and stuff, and you may assume that this person is annoyed or mad at you because you're personalizing this event when it may not necessarily be a personal thing. Also, kind of like, and I'll go into this in another episode as well. What also happens is not only does this happen, but in some cases it paralyzes the mind to where it's like, no, I'm annoyed. This person's annoyed at me or whatever. This person's upset at me or whatever it is. When those emotions, they're fickle, they change, and they aren't what they were 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. And you can change this yourself, but the mind, but the mind gets paralyzed. But that's another episode for another time. Which could be honestly a becoming aligned episode, because it really has some interesting becoming aligned features that I would have liked in the Becoming Aligned series, and I probably will put it as a Becoming Aligned because it is more Becoming Aligned than it is Know Your Mind. And this also is becoming aligned, but not directly. And the reason why I say not directly in that it is becoming aligned, because what you're doing when you realize this and when you embody this and you understand this, you go, oh, this thing that this person did wasn't something they did to me. This person wasn't annoyed at me, or if he was, I can change it and I can deal with it. And so in that way, it's becoming aligned, but it isn't that way directly. And so I didn't title it as Becoming Aligned. Probably will be making more of the Becoming Aligned because I did like those, and some people I know like them. So I might do more of those in the future. Because there's a couple of good points there that I could make for the last kind of couple episodes, I suppose. And it doesn't have to mean that you think somebody's annoyed with you. It could be anything. You could assume that the earth is flat and then start attacking people who disagree with your viewpoint. Or you could assume that science is true and you could attack others for disagreeing with your viewpoint, which is causing suffering for those who do this. They attack people and then they get attacked, and then they like have to defend themselves, and they have to like create a position and do all this stuff to get their point across and get their survival mechanism met. And their survival mechanism in this case isn't physical, but is identity based. Like their survival of these ideas they have is based on whether or not they can get their defense in properly, and whether they can actually win in some kind of debate I don't know how many times I've seen these like religion versus atheism debates where both sides are wrong and both sides are you're equally incorrect in so many ways. But that's one of the episodes that we'll be talking about in the next one, not the next, but one of the next future episodes. I will be talking about this and similar problems. So, why is this part of knowing your mind? And why should I think about this? I suppose would be your question, right? The answer is because all of us, I think, assume on a daily basis. Some of us assume less than others, less avoiding some biases, but all of us do assumptions to some extent or another. The question isn't do you assume things. The question is to what degree do you assume things. Versus somebody who doesn't assume things and can, actually come up with clear explanations and have a clearer mind and actually become more accurate as a result. Ultimately, what assumptions do is they close your mind to possibilities that differ from the assumptions that your mind has, or they create more suffering when you think somebody is upset with you, and then you go, oh no, what should I do? And then that causes you to feel upset and all this other stuff. And so being aware of whatever your assumptions is a very important thing. It's part of being self-aware. Most people, and this is not meant to be an insult, this is something that I've noticed myself, and even today to some extent, is not self-aware. Meaning that recording direct left channel on. The person is not aware of their assumptions. The person is not aware of the flaws of the mind. The person is not aware of all these problems that they have. And there's nothing wrong with being of having problems. It's just a part of life. It's more about becoming aware of them and trying to figure out how to deal with those things and change those things. So, anyways, I will end this episode, and what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and make this video in a different way than I did last time. I'm going to use this video maker to try and see how it comes out. So, if it comes out well, feel free to comment below. I will be linking some of my the podcast platforms that I have a podcast on. Well, not all of them, but 2 of them, Apple and Spotify, because I think those are the most used platforms. And I'll talk to you in the next episode. If you do like this episode, please consider sharing this with others. Maybe they get a benefit like you did. If you didn't, that's another subject. But if you did, please consider sharing and subscribing and clicking that notification bell, because I will be making more of these. It's probably going to be 10, 20, 30, 100 of these, because there's so many things to talk about. And I could literally make this entire premise into a podcast with 14,000 episodes, because there's so many different levels of it, and really that is what A Deeper Perspective is, the podcast that I have on there. And so I will be trying to make more of these because they're really cool. And so I see you on the next video, whatever that is. Right channel, left channel on, left channel on, right left channel on, right stop button.